Title: Why brands now hire cultural strategists instead of designers. 5 years in culture, that's what the job listing asks for. A brand you've heard of, a salary north of 6 figures, a title that didn't exist when the person they're hiring was in college. Cultural Strategist. The requirements read like a horoscope. Identify emerging cultural tensions, translate community signals into brand opportunities, ensure authentic voice across all touchpoints. Authentic. In a job listing, written by HR, approved by legal, posted on LinkedIn between a programmatic ad buyer and a senior DevOps engineer. Somewhere between the second and third round of interviews, someone will ask the candidate to describe a time they drove cultural relevance, and the candidate will answer. And the answer will be correct. And that correctness is the entire problem. Brands have always borrowed from culture. The timeline is clean enough to trace. In the 1950s, you hired a designer to make the thing look good. The artifact was the deliverable. A logo, a package, a print ad with a woman smiling at a refrigerator. By the 90s, you hired a strategist to make the thing mean something. Brand positioning, mission statements, the era of, we don't sell shoes, we sell the aspiration of movement. Then came the 2010s, and you hired a community manager to make the thing spread. Retweets as proof of relevance, engagement rates as proxy for affection. Each era added a layer of abstraction between the brand and its audience, and each layer felt, at the time, like progress. Now we've arrived at the final abstraction. Brands are hiring people to make the thing belong, not look good, not mean something, not spread, but feel inevitable, feel like it was always here. The deliverable is no longer an artifact or a position or a post. The deliverable is a feeling. And feelings, it turns out, are very hard to put on a quarterly report. A designer on Reddit put it plainly. The person who designed the Coca-Cola logo didn't receive a bonus based on 100 years of success. Cultural impact resists the calendar. It resists the dashboard. It resists the performance review. Which is precisely why it became the thing every brand now wants to own. The reason this shift is happening now and not 5 years ago is that every other advantage has been neutralized. Impressions are cheap. Clicks are gameable. Conversions can be purchased in bulk. AI has commoditized execution to the point where any startup with a mid-journey subscription can look like a billion-dollar company by Tuesday. Tom Scott, writing for Verified Insider, noted that brand and visual design hiring is accelerating in 2026, but the demand has migrated from people who can ship clean interfaces to people who can bring identity and edge. The stuff machines cannot replicate, the stuff that cannot be templated. And yet the flattening has already happened. Open 10 direct-to-consumer brand websites in 10 tabs and try to tell them apart. The same geometric sans serif, the same muted pastels, the same lifestyle photography of someone holding a product in golden hour light. The democratization of design tools created a homogeneity crisis so total that it became invisible. Everyone looks good. Nobody looks like anything. So the differentiator moved. It moved from craft to cultural fluency, from execution to taste, from what you make to what you seem to understand. Brands started posting listings for vibe architects, heads of cultural relevance, titles that sound like parodies but come with stock options. And here is where the machinery eats itself. Figma's research on design culture found that companies known for exceptional creative output spent years building environments where intuition and taste could flourish. Years. Not quarters, not sprints. The culture had to be grown, not bolted on. But the companies writing those job listings don't want to grow anything. They want to acquire it, hire it, onboard it by Q3. Pepsi tried to acquire it in 2017. The inputs were immaculate. Protest culture was trending. Kendall Jenner had massive reach. The sentiment was unity, peace, togetherness. Every line item on the brief checked out. And the result was the most ridiculed advertisement of the decade. A woman solving police brutality with a can of soda, pulled within 24 hours. What failed was not the strategy was correct. What failed was that no one in the room belonged to the culture they were referencing. They had proximity without participation. Signal without source. Compare that to Cortez, the London streetwear label that built one of the most hyped brands in Europe by doing everything brand strategists warn against. A private Instagram account, drops with no notice, The Bolo Exchange, where people traded their North Face puffers for Cortez pieces in the middle of the street. No media buys, no influencer partnerships, no dashboards. You cannot put "be mysterious and slightly hostile" into a brand guidelines document. You cannot onboard that energy in Q3. The playbook is that there is no playbook. Or look at Jacquemus, where one person's authentic obsession with Mediterranean warmth, surreal scale, and saturated color became a shared aesthetic language. Giant handbags on Parisian streets, inflatable bags floating in lakes. These are not ads. They are cultural objects that happen to sell things. Simon Porte-Jacquemus did not hire a cultural strategist. He is the cultural strategist. And that is the uncomfortable conclusion the industry keeps circling without landing on. The brands that successfully shape culture are ones where the culture predates the strategy, where the founder's obsession is the brand, where the system cannot be separated from the person because the person is the system. You cannot reverse engineer that with a department. And yet, Red Bull did something close. They built an entire media empire around extreme sports, music, and Formula One that doesn't feel like marketing. It feels like a media company that sells energy drinks on the side. But Red Bull started as a culture company. The culture was the business model, not a layer of paint applied in year 7 by a new CMO chasing relevance. The question is not whether systematized culture is possible. The question is whether a brand that didn't begin there can get there through hiring alone. And the honest answer, the one the industry cannot afford to say aloud, is almost certainly not. Because culture is emergent. It arises from communities, subcultures, friction, shared experience, and genuine risk. The moment you put cultural relevance on a dashboard, you have turned a living thing into a dead metric. This is the observer effect applied to branding. Measuring culture changes culture. Optimizing for authenticity produces its opposite. The KPI to culture pipeline is not a pipeline at all. It is a paradox dressed in a job listing. The counter-argument deserves its weight. Not every brand needs to be culturally relevant. Nobody needs Costco to have a cultural moment. And the sharpest critique of the authenticity argument is that every brand is manufactured. Jacquemus is strategic. Nike's Kaepernick campaign went through layers of approval before it became a symbol of corporate courage. The difference between culture and marketing is not the absence of strategy. It is conviction. It is taste. It is the willingness to be wrong in a way that no committee would ever approve. And the deepest danger of the cultural strategist role may not be that it fails to produce culture. It may be that by splitting culture into its own department, you separate it from craft. And craft is how culture becomes tangible. An art director who understands a subculture and can translate it into a typeface, a texture, a rhythm of images, that person is a cultural strategist. They just used to be called a designer. So the industry now pays 6 figures to name a function it used to embed in the work itself. It extracted the soul, gave it a title, and asked it to report to the VP of marketing. And it will measure the results quarterly, and the results will look correct, and the correctness will be the entire problem. So here is what I want to know. The last brand that made you feel something real, something that actually changed how you saw them or yourself. Was that feeling the result of a strategy you could diagram on a whiteboard? Or was it the one thing on the whiteboard nobody could explain? I already know the answer. I just want to hear you say it. If this changed how you think about the brands trying to earn your loyalty, it will do the same for someone still confusing proximity with participation. This is the threads of culture.